Hello everyone and welcome back to a top level game of professional StarCraft 2. Today it's time for a Zerg versus Protoss, where we find ourselves on Moondance. Now spawning here in the top left hand corner of the map, playing with the red Protoss probes, we have the highest ranked player from North America, hailing from the USA. We are looking at Neeb's main Nexus. His opponent in the opposite corner, playing here with the blue Zerg drones. I guess that this man is the rank 1 player from Finland, but sadly for Neeb, he's also the rank 1 player in the world. Of course that means we have none other than Serral. Alrighty, so Serral versus Neeb in a long game on Moondance. Now, both of these players, of course, absolute channel favorites. Both of them have been playing this game professionally for many years. Serral, one of the few StarCraft 2 millionaires, and Neeb, obviously, I mean, he's won his fair share of tournaments. The one that always comes to mind to me is the Casbah Cup back in 2017. At the time, it was very uncommon for non-Koreans to win Korean tournaments. But yeah, Neeb sure showed them in that particular event. Anyways, it almost feels like Neeb has found a second wind again over the last couple of months. I've mentioned this as well in previous casts, but Neeb is really looking once again very, very strong. So I'm excited to find out exactly how well he does right here against Serral. Now don't get me wrong, even though I haven't seen this game, I tend to favor Serral in pretty much every game that he plays. Especially as Zerg versus Protoss, though, that's always seemed like his strongest matchup, together with his Zerg versus Terran over the last couple of years. He really doesn't lose Zerg versus Protoss very frequently at all. Now, he doesn't look as dominant, I suppose, as he did back in 2018. So, in 2018, Serral basically won everything that he participated in, but he's looked a little bit more mortal over the years. Now, obviously, Zerg did get a couple of nerfs too, so maybe, you know, that's one of the reasons. Maybe Serral is one of the reasons why Zerg got nerfed a couple of times. But anyways, he's definitely, yeah, looked a little bit more mortal, but I do still tend to favor Serral in these types of games, just because the man is really freaking good at StarCraft 2. And that's not really to take anything away from Neeb. It's just that Serral has this ability to make super difficult games look easy. Anyhow, we'll find out together. Ooh, I love that. Look at that. On the production tab, we have little chrono boost indicators. I've heard that apparently this was included in the replay pack, so that's super exciting. I actually love seeing that. So we have little indicators right there on the production tab of what exactly is getting chronoed, which is one of those nice additions that we see, yeah, added to the game. All right, so a bunch of chrono boosts going down right there on the first gateway to get a couple of those adepts out. Now, this particular game was played during Home Story Cup, which is a tournament that recently took place. I was actually there at Home Story Cup, but I didn't actually see this particular game. I didn't cast this particular game either. I was actually playing some poker. I was playing some poker in between the casts that I had to do, and I wasn't really paying attention to the games that were going on at the exact same time. I mean, I probably saw who won this game, but I honestly don't remember. Either way, I had a good day playing poker this day. I remember, okay, that was a good poker day for Loko. The Koreans definitely like to play some aggressive poker. Let's leave it at that. Anyways, 2 adepts go into the main base, and right from the get-go, this is really, really nice right here for Neeb. Despite the fact that the Overlord was, yeah, capable of potentially scouting this out, I believe that Serral actually flew it all the way to the corner. Yeah, so actually only 4 drones right there in the end. Can he get a 5th? Looks like he will. You know what? 5 drones right there for 2 adepts is really not even the end of the world right here for Serral, but it's not really what you want to have happen. I think what Serral did is he flew that Overlord around the site. So now it's hanging out over here in the back. I think it's mostly here to spot for a potential 3rd base right there in the back. The problem is that, obviously, if you fly the Overlord past the gateway, you can't actually see if there's additional chronos going down. Now, I do think that Serral could have tried running in there. He probably saw that, but he purposefully didn't do so, knowing very well the Oracle would be out. And, I mean, in the end, you probably just end up losing those Zerglings, and then you're forced to remake them. Anyhow, 3rd Nexus has been planted at this super safe location. Serral spotted this right away. Let's see how good his defense is going to be right here against this very first Oracle. So far, 1 drone kill. Yeah, honestly, 6 worker kills at this point in the game. Maybe 7? Yeah, no. Almost 7 anyways. This is not a bad start whatsoever here for the American. There's not really one thing that I would say that really separates Serral from, you know, other high-level Zergs. It's just that he does things a little bit better. Generally, though, one of the themes that we do see in his games is that he really takes, like, no damage in the earlier stages of a match at all. So that is something, I guess, that's worth noting. Him losing a bunch of drones right here, I mean, it's common at the pro level, but nobody would have been surprised here if Serral ended up losing 2 drones. Anyway, Twilight Council is a follow-up. Beautiful scout right here, actually, as well for the finisher. Sees everything, but once again, good amount of drones going down. And even though you can lose those adepts, keeping those oracles alive is super critical. So the fact that, yeah, only 3 adepts have gone down up to this point, and now suddenly he shows up right now with more adepts, I really do like this position right here for the American. Okay, Council's the shade. Beautiful Evo chamber block right there as well. Now from Serral, you love to see that. That's a cute little micro trick that is basically preventing those adepts from getting into the mineral line. Ooh, that's actually really nice. All right, over here, Stasis Ward gets denied. And once again, Serral deflects this with seemingly minimal amounts of damage. Chrono Boost right there on the Twilight Council. +1/+1 upgrades coming up. I actually really like the 1/1 upgrades. So 1/1 is definitely a little bit on the greedier end of things, but if you can finish those upgrades, it's actually super nice. 4th Nexus has been planted down as well at a very respectable time. This seems to be about, I want to say like 5:45 or so, and considering the amount of adepts that he made, yeah, really not too crazy right there on that base timing at all. It's important to continuously expand even while you're being greedy, and I think this is mostly, yeah, Neeb looking at this game, seeing the amount of damage that he's done, and he's thinking, okay, you know what? I think I can squeeze out an extra set of upgrades, right? An extra forge and an extra upgrade getting chrono boosted. If he didn't do any damage and he would have like lost one of those oracles, probably would have opted to go for a single forge instead, but I really like this. Dude, I really like the chrono boost indicator on the production tab, sorry. At this point, I guess I've been casting so many games of StarCraft 2. The little additions really mean a lot. That's really sweet, right? I'm not the only one that thinks that, right? Anyways. This game is progressing as we see right now in macro games of StarCraft 2 most of the time. Serral also going double upgrades. So that's a little bit on the greedier end of things, but he was quite late on his first upgrade. He's gonna go for a Roach Warren together with a Baneling Nest. So one of the nerfs that Serral is directly responsible for is the Baneling damage versus shields. Once upon a time, the Banelings, well, maybe not directly, not only him, but definitely one of the reasons why. Well, nice little stasis works. One of the reasons, or sorry, one of the changes that has been made to this matchup over the years is that Banelings just simply don't deal as much damage to Protoss as they used to. And obviously, yeah, Serral definitely likes going Banelings. For a while there, it almost felt like Zerg players were like throwing a tantrum that they're like, you nerfed my Banelings? Now I will literally never make them again. And, you know, over the years, we found out that, yeah, despite the nerf, Banelings are still pretty good. It's just that units like, for example, Archons, they do incredibly well, right? Since obviously they are made like 99% out of shields, Archons do incredibly well against the Banelings. Anyways, for now, we've got a very gateway-heavy army, and that's what we've been seeing, obviously, in the meta of StarCraft 2 recently. Neeb is forced to claw his way through a bunch of creep over here. A lot of Zerglings going in for the counterattack, but that's what you get for keeping those adepts from earlier alive. Yeah, he's going to be able to, yeah, defend and deflect that army of Zerglings pretty easily. Serral apparently, though, is going to add on a bunch of Banes. We'll see where these are going to be rallied to. Oh, you know what? Maybe they're not going to be rallied anywhere. Neeb actually finds this. Really nice. Do you still engage? Honestly, I don't think you do. Yeah, Serral's trying to get up a surround. Okay, that makes this a whole lot better. Getting those sentries at the very least does make it a bit easier, and what seemed like a relatively flimsy engagement right there for Serral initially is now turning out to be pretty good. Still though, this is why you want to keep those oracles alive, right? Those oracles are absolutely amazing, just constantly dishing out damage. At this point, the question is how many workers will end up going down? I think it's the majority of them. The same point, by the way, there's also now Zealots on the other side of the map. Those adepts from earlier are shading into the natural. There's a bunch of Zealots also slicing and dicing up those queens. And honestly, in the end, this is looking pretty sweet right now for Neeb once again. I am liking this position here for the Protoss player a lot. This is great. He's everywhere. He's in the main base. He was in a natural. He's now got Zealots over here at the fourth too. Serral really, yeah, doubling down right there on the multitasking. He needs to be everywhere. All right, both players end up taking a bunch of damage, but I would say that Neeb certainly dealt more damage than he took. Yeah, not bad at all. Very nice start. So how exactly do you drive this home right now? Neeb has got an advantage. How exactly do you drive this home? So apparently the first order of business is additional upgrades. So that's the +3. That's the shield upgrades as well. Those are super sweet. One thing that we see a lot of Protoss players doing right now in the current meta is a heavy focus on Stalkers and Zealots and just continuous pushing. One thing that Serral is pretty much always on top of, and one of the advantages of having that many actions per minute, is that he's got very good creep spread. Despite the chaos in this game, the creep is still pretty much covering, I want to say like 50% of the map, maybe a little bit more even. It makes it difficult to push with an exclusive Zealot Stalker army, right? I mean, obviously you get revelations on those oracles, so you can get rid of that creep by throwing a bunch of those revelations down, but it's gonna take a while. So I don't really mind the idea of Neeb actually teching up here and going into the Templar Archives. But honestly, this transition now does feel a little bit on the slower end of things. I mean, sure, he's in a great spot right now, but he doesn't have anything to really hammer this game home right now. So I think he's opting to play the macro instead. If that's the case, I would love to see a 6th Nexus going down here pretty soon as well. Serral going for the Lurker then. Lurker's historically very uncommon in the Zerg versus Protoss matchup. Okay, maybe he can snipe a couple of those units. Yeah, not bad at all. Okay, beautiful stasis wards, man. Those oracles are the real MVPs, I'm telling you. If you're one of those Protoss players that, like, continuously loses their oracles with the early game harassment, you're making a mistake. Anyways, big blink forward over here. Those Stalkers are well upgraded, so they do pack a punch. I wouldn't even mind seeing additional oracles being added on. I would love to see him going up to, like, 5, maybe even 6 oracles. Because those oracles have been dealing so much damage and so much utility. A couple of banelings, though, are rolling through this pack, and it looks like... Alright, 1 probe ends up going down there, it seems. Really not that much at all. Neeb is looking super good. Yeah, fantastic move. I mean, this was a bit of an all-in-y push right now from Serral. Serral knows that he's pretty far behind at this point, so he decided to put all of his eggs in one basket. Didn't get it done. We're talking 79 drones right now for the Zerg versus 90 probes for Protoss. So this is the income right here over the last couple of minutes. Yeah, there was a bit of a spike right there, but I actually don't know if there's even enough mineral fields here for the Protoss player to effectively mine. I guess he's also been forced to pull a lot of those workers away. Yeah, the natural is starting to run out, so he definitely does need a new base. And apparently that one is being taken right there on the right side of the map in the top right-hand corner. Anyways, I was talking about the Lurkers. So Lurkers historically have never really been used much in Zerg versus Protoss. But because of that change in army compositions recently, with a heavy focus on Stalkers and Zealots, Lurkers have actually become quite useful. They can shut down those sort of armies, and they can really force the Protoss player to tech up. Now, the Archons over here tanking a lot of damage. Wonderful positioning right there, once again from Neeb. Microing those units back as well. This is now the good old Roach Hydra ball, which is what we used to see back in the early days of StarCraft 2. It seems to me that Neeb is slowly biting through this, but he doesn't have a prism here, so he's not capable of quickly reinforcing this. Additional Zealots, though, did come, I think, from the top section of the map, and a couple other units have joined up over here, too. There's an Observer up in the air now, so Neeb is going to be able to start clearing out some of the creep. Now the Lurkers, though, are available, and these are coming in really clutch. You don't really need that many Lurkers. Like, you can have, like, 8 Lurkers, and that can shut down the majority of those Protoss Stalker armies, and this right now is becoming rather expensive, yeah. These are incredibly well-upgraded Zerglings here. Adrenal Glance is done, which gives them a lot of additional attack speed. +3 melee is finishing up as well. I believe for Mr. Neeb here that the age of the Stalker Zealot is over. We have fully upgraded Zerglings, at the very least as far as their attacks go. And then we have Lurkers on the ground as well, or I guess underground to be completely, you know, technically accurate. Battery overcharge is not going to happen. Warping gets cancelled as well. Serral is striking back. This is, by the way, a base that is on a high ground right here on Moondance, so no additional entrance other than right over here. But look at those Zerglings. My god. Those couple extra upgrades that just finished really helping out quite a bit. And Serral taking out this base is actually quite big. Serral taking out this expansion really puts him back on the board in this game, because I think if Neeb would have been able to mine this one continuously as well, Serral would have been in a lot of trouble. This is the point in the game where Neeb can basically produce whatever he likes, and apparently what he likes to make is a little bit risky. I think he's going for an Archon Immortal-based army with Storm for support, which technically can deal, yeah, a lot of damage to small amounts of Lurkers, but this is not the 8 Lurkers I was talking about. This is 15 Lurkers. There's this weird dynamic between those two unit compositions where, like, against small numbers of Lurkers, Archons and Immortals can definitely work out. Now, actually, oh, this is kind of risky. Moving up that ramp, yeah, I don't think that's what you want to do. When Zerg sees this, though, when Zerg sees that it's not a response from the Protoss player to go for, like, mass Skytools units, they can just double down on Lurker play. Those spines deal so much damage. They're actually quite tanky as well. 200 health right there on one of those Lurkers. Storm deals 80 damage, which is definitely significant, but it's supplemental at best against an army like this from the Zerg. Still though, Serral's being awfully aggressive here. This doesn't feel like it's the majority of his army. I don't really know. I guess it is. Yeah, he's got a lot of units at home as well. Now Banelings, though, looking to roll by into another one of those bases. Once again, it looks like it gets denied. I say that. Not done just yet. These are capable of one-shotting probes. Okay. I think this is the better choice. So Neeb adding on an extra Stargate, going into the fleet beacon right now as well. I don't think you're going to be winning the ground battle against the Zerg in the late game. I mean, you can, but it's very difficult to pull off. Now Vipers are added into the mix too, which for obvious reasons are amazing here for the Zerg. It's only a single Viper, but that's still a couple abductions and maybe even a blinding cloud as well. Okay, there you go. Immortal getting targeted right away. Yeah, Serral just keeping those units burrowed throughout the storm. Apparently they have to weather the storm. Now Serral needs to be a little bit cautious though, because he doesn't know about the Stargate transition, and he doesn't really have an army that shoots up particularly well. I mean, Hydras technically have an anti-air attack, but we've all seen that happen over the years. Even though theoretically Hydras are not bad against air units, they generally speaking eat one storm or one disruptor hit, and they can get absolutely destroyed by those carriers. So I kind of hope that Neeb is going to hide those carriers for a bit longer. There is a Greater Spire available here in just about a minute or so for Serral. Wouldn't mind him adding on like a second Spire as well to go for like double upgrades here very soon. Because I think that this game will be decided by air dominance. Alright. Early game going in favor of Neeb. I would say the mid game so far though, going really well here for Serral. The beginning of the mid game wasn't looking so hot, but right now he's in his comfort zone, right? He's got a good amount of economy. He's got a solid amount of income. And you can see over the last 10 minutes, he's been winning that income. Over his opponent anyways. Base in the top right-hand corner being secured once again, and I don't think Neeb is going to lose this one. I mean, maybe he will. But just Zerglings and Banelings I don't think are going to cut it. They would have to come in very large numbers. But maybe like an Ultralisk or two can, you know, chomp away at some of the static defense later on. There's that second Spire. Okay. He's going to go for the armor upgrades first. Armor upgrades, big indication that Serral at this point knows that he's going up against carriers, and I think he just spotted them. Probably already saw them a little bit earlier as well. Nidus network going down. Okay. Now, I think it bears repeating that Serral, in my mind, is probably the best late-game player in all of StarCraft 2. It usually looks easy when he controls those late-game armies, but I can tell you from experience that it's incredibly hard. So usually the Zerg players like to focus on a lot of spellcasters, together with, like, you know, for example, Corruptors and Zerglings, Banelings, maybe some Ravagers, Brute Lords, Lurkers, that sort of thing. But a lot of spellcaster control in general. And spellcasters are pretty hard to, you know, manage. They're not particularly easy to control. Obviously, though, the late-game Protoss army has a lot of potential as well. There's a Nidus Worm, though, going down in the back of the base. That's probably that Overseer from earlier. Is that the Overlord that was there originally? No, actually, that one got killed off over at the 4th base. Anyways, see Zerglings over here on the left side of the map getting denied. Nidus Worm, though, in the main base. And this is what I'm a little bit concerned for. There needs to be a response, because at the same time, Lurkers are moving forward as well. Just trying to, yeah, create chaos. These are well-upgraded Lings and Hydras, so, okay, they can definitely pack a punch. A couple of carriers apparently do get recalled back towards the corner base, but these Zerglings have burrowed. They have quick upgrades. They can definitely maneuver around the map very rapidly, so they can outpace those carriers quite nicely. Nidus Worm going down on the left side of the map, but I think that Neeb is not going to be taking any damage from this position. Now Lurkers are heading on over in that direction. Okay. Brute Lords are coming up. Oh, my tea's gone cold. I forgot I made tea. My tea's gone cold. I'm wondering why I booted up this game at all. Wait, no. This is not the original lyrics. Those are the tempo lyrics. Ooh. couple of free overlords. Good guy Serral strikes again. This is that weird point in the game, though. I always hate this point in the game when you're playing Zerg. Because your entire game plan, right, is to try and deny that Protoss economy. And then at some point, Neeb is like, here, take him. I don't need it anymore. Well, this is a very ambitiously positioned Nexus. This Infestor is also like, what the? I'd almost like to see a Neural Parasite on that Infestor just so Neeb can, you know, be forced to play against Skytles of his own. If Serral could Neural Parasite the probe and start making his own Skytles units, that would be something. Anyways, Mama Ship is coming up. This base over here is going to be very hard to acquire. I don't think Zerg is really going to be able to take control of that. So, yeah, taking this base over here makes a little bit more sense. Good feedback. So, feedback is one of those abilities that Protoss players have access to too. You don't really see it at low-level play, but it's one of the absolute strongest spells at the highest level. So, it's the first ability right there for those High Templar. So they have Sonic Storm, very spicy ability, right? Very nice graphic. You see what you're looking at. It deals damage, right? It's pretty obvious. Feedback, however, can be a little bit more vague. So the way that feedback works is that it deals damage based on the amount of energy that the unit that it's targeting has. So for example, this Viper right now has 200 energy and it will take more damage than those Infestors would because they have less energy. On top of that, the energy also gets removed out of the spellcaster that is being targeted by the feedback ability. So long story short, we'll see a lot of that coming down here, I think, from me. The feedback has a longer range than all the spells right here from the Zerg. So theoretically, at least, he should be in a pretty good spell advantage, but it's, you know, much easier said than done, especially with fungal growth and all that. With those Brute Lords being annoying. Protoss right now forced to split up their army. I think Serral has the army over here contained, though, and at the same time, he's dealing damage right now to the Nexus on the left side of the map. Liking this position right here for Serral quite a bit better. Not really a whole lot that Serral, yeah, is going to take damage from here. He's going for the additional Spore Crawlers. So he's currently at 28, 29, soon to be 30. 30 Spore Crawlers are going to make it difficult for Protoss to move around the map, and I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see even more coming up. Because of that, though, we now also have Neeb transitioning towards Tempests. He's going for the Fleet Beacon upgrades, too, to make those Tempests stronger against structures. So this first research right here allows those Tempests to shoot golden balls, and those golden energy balls, they deal additional damage to those structures. Obviously, you got to be careful once again, because, well, Tempests can shoot away further than they can see, but that's where the Oracles come into the mix. So I don't know if we still have the Oracles from the early game. No, he's making a new one. Those Oracles, they have a skill called Revelation. It's good at getting rid of all of that creep. But also to, for example, cast it on the Spore Crawlers. It will give you vision. Ooh. For a little while. This was a nice move right here, using the Mass Recall. And then your Tempest can gun down all of those spores. Anyways. Careful, though. That Mama Ship. Ooh, very far forward. Neeb right there using the offensive recall ability on the Mama Ship, which allows you to recall units in the direction of the Mothership itself. Nidus Worm once again heading on over towards the top left-hand corner. And Neeb is trying to acquire the base over here too. Serral, by the way, once more, grab the base in the bottom left. Mama Ship pretty far exposed. Beautiful fungal growth there as well from Serral. Good storms though, so at the very least the Mothership did not come for free. But I like this exchange once again a little bit better for the finisher. Not a lot of army over here inside of this worm. A couple of Dark Templar, though, have been tasked with clearing this one out. Serral desperately starts unloading a couple of units. Not really going to achieve too much. Now the Tempest gets spotted. Alright. A game like this will usually be decided by the player that will mine more resources, right? If both players play perfectly, which is kind of impossible, but if they both trade very evenly, you can imagine that the player that mined more resources will end up winning. So, I haven't actually seen these bases really come into play very often on this map, but I think that they're going to be absolutely critical here. Neeb has got a good bank, but the cost of his army right there, look at the army value. Yeah, it's not cheap. It's not cheap. Serral actually has a far more expensive army. Going into the Ultralisk Cavern right now too, so Ultras maybe are going to be an option, but I think by the time the day will be out, the expansion in the top right-hand corner will probably be destroyed. Anyways. After the Immortals and Archons are gone, especially the Immortals, Ultras can actually be super good. So Mass Corruptor is capable of taking out Mass Skytals. However, the High Templar and the Archons can really slow down that advancement, right? Because if your Corruptors get stormed, the game is pretty tricky. However, obviously, that's where Ultras can be super good. Now, there's a little bit of an overextension there from Neeb, and when I say a little bit, I mean a lot of it. That was 4 carriers going down? Little mistakes like that can really not be made, Neeb. This is the APM obviously being stretched very thinly, right? So look at Neeb actually playing a really fast game. I really love that. Generally speaking, Protoss players play a little bit of a lower action per minute. Part of that is obviously the repeat rates and all that, right? But Neeb definitely staying on top of things. Neeb has honestly looked very impressive over the last couple of months. I think if you would have shown me this game a year ago, I probably would have said Serral 9 out of 10 times. Right now, it's maybe Serral 7 out of 10 times, which, for what it's worth, is, yeah, noteworthy. I think that's actually a compliment, even though it sounds like a very mean thing to say. It really isn't. All right. He's gonna double down on the Tempest production. This is where the Robo facilities were. Robo facilities not as important right now. Okay. Ideally, as Protoss here, you want to engage in an area. So once again, by the way, probes are getting killed, but I think that's the sacrificial probes. You want to fight in an area where those spore crawlers aren't, right? So I really like what Neeb is doing here. Slowly picking off those spore crawlers. Alternatively, he could try and find a location where the mothership can go and then recall the units in that direction. Obviously, it's easy to get carried away with that sort of thing. So it's easy to look at that and be like, I'm going to send the mama ship over here and recall everything. And while in theory that's a great idea and you will definitely get the hatchery, it's also going to leave you vulnerable in the top right-hand corner. Sniping one base at the cost of 3 of your own, believe it or not, is not ideal. Still, Brute Lords are much slower than this Protoss army. So seeing them, yeah, maneuvering around right over here, really nice. Is forcing Serral here to keep those brutes in the middle of the map. You can't really send them to the perimeter. Okay, this is good. That was very nice there for Neeb. Okay, grabbing a couple of the Infestors too. 2 Infestors going down, 1 Viper only actually, but traits are looking a little bit better now for the Protoss player than they were in the previous few engagements. I don't know how these bases are going to mine. So we currently have a similar amount of resources getting mined here. I really am not entirely sure how the bases on the left and on the right side are going to get mined. I can see Zerg maybe mining it, but for Protoss, that's going to be super hard. Maybe I'm mistaken. I haven't really seen any super long late game yet on Moondance, but I think that this may very well be getting there. Anyways, a couple of shield batteries attempted to be planted down. Massive fungal growth, though. My god, that fungal was huge. Slowing down that Protoss army and also making it difficult for it to retreat. Time Warp does go down. Okay, another massive fungal there. But this time around, though, the battery overcharge is going to help out. The super battery there, keeping those Skytals units stopped off. I think that fight looked pretty good there for the Zerg player, but he did also lose a bunch of Corruptors right there in the process. A little bit difficult to say. Brute Lords weren't part of that force because, well, apparently they decided to head on over towards the top right-hand corner. Base in the bottom left, though. Gets the Knight once again. Nice movement right there from Neeb. Oh, good storm. Getting rid of those really rapidly. 6 Void Rays coming up. So Neeb going for the transition towards Void Rays. When you're producing 6 Void Rays at once, you may actually catch the Zerg player off guard. Normally it's the Zerg player who's capable of going for those fast tech transitions. Okay, a couple of Archons there. Do change team for a little bit. They will get destroyed. Once again, those fungals are huge, man. Oh my god, the Archons! Woo, the Archons almost ended up killing the Tempest there. At the very least, they will stay alive, but I do think they have to get on out of there because the Corruptors are looking to hunt them down. A lot of them are very low in HP. Anyways, apparently Neeb decides to stay around here for a little bit longer. How many Corruptors are we at? 19. Okay, we do have a lot. How many Void Rays are we at? 7 at this point, and they have been hiding in the top left-hand corner. Void Rays are super good against armored units, like, for example, Corruptors, but in big numbers, Corruptors still tend to win. Serral now attempted to take the base right here on the right side of the map. I feel like Zealot run-bys and Dark Templar and all that should be able to take care of that, but maybe I'm mistaken. At this point, Neeb actually can't warp in any additional units, which is a bit awkward. He does have a couple Dark Templar, but they're patrolling for Nidus Worms inside of the main base. Yeah, so if you're max in supply, obviously you can't warp in units to go after those bases on the right side. Alright, so Neeb attempting this once again. Going for a pylon on the low ground. But I think he plans on adding on shield batteries and photon cannons and all that. Base on the high ground, once again secured. These Ultras are actually really packing a punch here. They're taking up a lot of supply too. Okay, well this is apparently the point where the Void Race gets shown for the first time. Corruptor's feeling hungry, man. Okay, a recall being utilized right away. They're going in the direction of the Mama ship, and this is now all of the Protoss army getting together. Shield battery should be done as well by the time that Protoss here wants to retreat. And actually, the Void Rays going to the main base. They're going to take care of some of those structures. Not activating Prismatic Alignment, super important. Hive at this point is gone. Got a feeling, though, you need to get on out of there. Yeah, that was a little bit late. He wanted to stay around for a little bit longer. Tempest right now joining the fray as well. There's the Prismatic Alignment being activated. Good control as well, though, by Serral, picking off those units one at a time. But the Tempest still shooting away at their maximum range because the Revelation is still available. Good storms as well. At the same time, apparently Lurkers and a couple of Ultras have moved on over towards the high grounds, and they're once again denying the mining over here. Neeb, though, mostly just aiming to mine the gas. Maybe he can still pick off those Ultras on the way out, but the Nexus is running a little bit low. Yeah, I've got a feeling that it's going to be hard to keep that one alive. Oh. That's not the first time we're seeing that in this game. A couple of Skytools units just get picked off for free. I understand that there's a lot going on in this game, but we're not seeing Serral lose like 4 or 5 Brute Lords for free, or a couple of Infestors, or a couple of Ultras, right? Those are the types of moves that can definitely change everything. Mass Chrono Boost right there, though, on 6 additional Void Rays. Serral is now mining the base on the right side of the map, but he obviously hasn't been mining the one in the bottom left for very long. Neeb at this point is running out of money. He's been sacrificing his probes for a while. I think he probably will try to take this Nexus once again, but he needs to start thinking longer term. I think he needs to take the base on the left side of the map. The far left, that is. He still has a good amount of resources in the bank, so it's not of the highest priority just yet, but we're getting to that point. I think he's hoping he can win the game with this army right here, right now. But Serral is continuously expanding and trying to get more and more, resources. Did he ever rebuild the lair? Okay, he did, yeah. He's gonna go into another hive here. This base in the top right actually does not really serve much of a function anymore. Serral wants to kill it, but he must realize at this point that his base is long mined out. If you commit too many resources over here, sure, you're gonna kill the base, but once again, it may very well cost him in the long run if Protoss is then gonna be able to commit their entire army to a main fight. It's a lot of Void Rays. Yeah, we're at 12 Void Rays right now. Okay. We don't have any sentries in the army mix. That's kind of interesting. Expansion in the top right corner getting destroyed. At the very least, this is not going to be another area where I guess the Protoss player could warp in units to harass this base. Okay. It's a lot of Infestors. We're at 11 Infestors here, yeah. So we have way more Infestors than we have High Templar, so even with perfect feedbacks, this might be a little bit tricky. Infestors have a couple of skills that are useful. Most notably, though, Fungal Growth. We've seen it many times already in this game. It slows down units, but it also deals damage over time. Can make it really difficult to retreat, especially. And then they have Neural Parasite that we saw on those Archons earlier. Neural Parasite is also amazing. We actually missed one of the air upgrades? Really? I didn't even check for that yet. I assumed that both of these players would be maxed out, but that is also an oversight here from Neeb. Not having that +3 armor really does hurt. Serral playing a slightly cleaner late game so far. And it's only slightly. but I do like what he's doing. Still, this Protoss army has to be addressed, and it's a huge one. A lot of these Tempests are also on red hit points, though, or yellow and orange. It's actually a little bit scary. Sometimes you think you have a better late game than you actually do, like a better army than you actually do. Because even though you micro to keep all of those units alive, you still find yourself in a weird spot. Now all of the Void Rays here. Oop. No response. Okay, no response at least initially. Parasitic Bomb there. Definitely softening up a couple of those Voids, but looks like the battery overcharge is going to keep those units alive. Okay. A lot of static defense here in the middle of the map, just by itself. Ultras don't really care, obviously, about stasis wards and all that either. Serral's actually super careful with his Ultras. See, most Zerg players at this level throwing away their Ultras a couple of times, so Serral apparently gave them names. He's like, Alfred, go forth, take the base in the top right. Alfred, go after the Cyber Core. Take out the pylon. He's really been taking care of those units, so you'll love to see that. Oracle, though, gets the Knight. Serral's bank is actually rather small. I didn't quite realize that. I've been talking as if the Protoss player here is broke. The Ultralist burrowed. But it's really Serral who doesn't have a lot of money. I guess he still has this entire base though, and now actually Neeb is mining the same base on the left side of the map. He really needs to take those gases. He really needs those gases. Gases are going to be the main limiting resource here going forward. Base in the bottom left. Technically taken by the Zerg, but I actually think that Neeb probably has more potential to mine that one out. I feel like every time I look at the Corruptors, they're killing something, though. Yeah. How many Spore Crawlers are we on? Only 12. Really not even that many. A new spawning pool coming up. Apparently the spawning pool in the main base, maybe it bled out. Where are all those probes at? Oh, they're still okay. He needs to move those over. I was gonna say. There's 30-something probes here on the, according to the UI anyways, but I haven't seen them. But apparently, yeah, okay, now he notices. He's needing to, move those in a different spot. Okay. Viper moving a little bit ambitiously forward. There's 4 Vipers, 11 Infestors. Lurker over here should get the Knight. Okay. I actually would love to see, like, Neeb sending a couple of units over here to take out that base in the bottom left. I think he needs to try and mine that one. That would really secure this game for him, I think. Because there's no equivalent base in the top right, right? Because he's already mined that one out. Yeah, setting up a wall over here and then taking out the base in the bottom left would be sick. So I don't think he realizes it. No, he actually doesn't know. That's why he hasn't responded. He's trying to put down a pylon over there and he finds out that there's a Zerg base. Serral added on a couple of drones over here, secretly trying to mine out those gases. But I've got a feeling that that expansion is going to be very short-lived. This is one hell of a Zerg army, though. It's a difficult one to control. But if those spellcasters hit the right units at the right time, it can suddenly be game over. Protoss doesn't really have that wow factor in this force, and he actually needs to be careful splitting up the army once again. Oh, that's a lot of Corruptors. Yeah, we're at 34 Corruptors right now. Mama Ship all by herself. Tempest split off from the main pack. Okay. I think keeping those units in one big ball is going to be a little bit better. That's another expansion down the drain, though. Another Tempest getting picked off. Serral makes late-game Zerg armies look so ridiculously good. I promise you, if you ever try playing this, you will find way more success with an army like this than with an army like this. Everyone I've ever asked has always found more success with this army than with that army. This is one of those, I need 600 actions per minute and I'm gonna micro it type of armies. And it turns out, if you can micro all of those units really well, it's super strong. Turns out if you, yeah, have only 2 hands, you might be in some trouble. Serral looking so dominant in the late game. It's actually scary. Okay, once again, we do have a recall in the direction of the Mama Ship. That does mean, though, that the bases here at the front are going to be quite vulnerable. Doesn't Serral need those Brute Lords at home? Not 100% sure. Yeah, Neeb a little bit indecisive. I don't think he actually was recalling right there to try and set up a, you know, a move. He was just trying to save some of those Archons. Now the front door to the natural is wide open. Oh, careful though. That is a very large amount of Protoss units. And actually, I thought Serral was the one paying attention there, but he is not the one that apparently needed the sorry, Neeb is not the one that needed the ambulance there, as a bunch of those infestors just get picked off right away. Still though, there's enough infestors available to go for the fungal growth together with the parasitic bomb. No splits whatsoever there from the American player. He's trying, but since the army was slowed down, obviously it can be quite difficult to actually split off the right units. Even though the infestors fell there, I think that was still a decent fight right there from Serral. Base in the bottom left, once again acquired. Lings and Banes heading on over towards this, well, last mining expansion here for the Protoss, because there's no probes here on the high ground, or very few anyways. Both players, though, running out of money. If we look right here at the cost of these armies that they've got, neither of them could really replace a whole lot. Okay. I think Serral's mostly concerned with the amount of gas that he's got, so I think he's probably sending some drones on over towards the bottom left-hand corner once again to try and mine out those gases. I think Neeb is trying to control too much terrain. Like, he's trying to control his entire side of the map, and he just doesn't have the army to, like, outpace this Zerg. I think giving up the main may actually not be a terrible idea, although, obviously, yeah, it's kind of difficult to make that call. Because he really needs to base in the bottom left. I think if he commits all of his efforts right now into securing the entire bottom left-hand corner, I think he can. Like, I think he can take this base, and then also that one over there, right? The problem is that all of his production is over here. All of his tech is located over here too, so I don't think he wants to give up on that. I think in hindsight, maybe you want to be making your Stargates over here instead. Like, when you add on the additional Stargates, you might want to have them in that quadrant in the bottom left instead. Anyways. These maps are obviously still relatively new. Here we go, though. Once again, massive fungal growth, slowing down his army. That's not a one of the High Templar falling. Corruptors right now getting close, and that's the Mama ship, super dead. She does cast a Time Warp to, at the very least, force this Zerg army to disengage. Okay, we need some storms. Yeah. Corruptors, though, do generate some life again as the game goes on. Takes them a very long time, but they will slowly but surely move up when it comes to the amount of health that they've got. I might be mistaken, though, on my assessment here, but I really feel like this base needs to be Neeb's. And he can't really defend the bases in the top left-hand corner while simultaneously also holding on to the bases in the bottom left. I actually think that late-game Stargate and tech transitions and positioning on the map, it's probably going to be one of the more important parts. Like, imagine if those Stargates were over here. Right? Like over here. Or like, that would have been so much easier. Anyhow. Base in the bottom left once again gets destroyed. I think that's about the 7th time. Neeb's army still looking very menacing, though. Brute Lords moving forward. How many spellcasters do we still have here for Protoss? It is 2 Oracles. And 5 High Templar. He's trying to make a new mothership, so that's good, I guess. It's funny how I find myself getting nervous for the Protoss players whenever I cast a Serral game. I tend to favor Protosses in this sort of scenario, but when casting a Serral game, I'm like, every detail needs to be super clean, because otherwise, I've got a feeling you're going to be super dead. Anyways, this is Serral going for a deep move, though. And I don't know if I agree with this one. He's trying to bait that Protoss army. Maybe that's what's going on here. Yeah, once again, massive fungal growth, massive parasitic bombs. He's trying to split off the affected units. Even microbial shrouds to keep those queens alive for a little while longer. That's not a High Templar going down. The Corruptors, though, are staying alive for a long time. I think we've only really seen a handful of Corruptors going down over the last couple of minutes. Mama ship, once again, too far forward. You can't afford moving that Mama ship that far forward. You need to put it on its own control group, or at the very least chase the furthest far away unit. Because otherwise, yeah, since it's got like that weird acceleration speed, and it's got that very slow progression, it will just get picked off. Like, the I guess it's its turn radius, right? Like the mama ship tends to be like a, well, I guess it's a huge flying disc, but it kind of, I don't know, takes the outer corner every single time. And because of that, if you put it on the same control group as the rest of your army, it will take those weird turns incorrectly. Like, it will pretty much always turn in the direction of the Zerg, and it makes that abduction so much easier. Now, I understand all of those things are extremely hard to do, but I think if you want to fight Serral in the late game, that's what you need to do. Still though, Serral's super broke. Neeb still has some money in the bank. Neeb definitely still in a position to win this game. Okay, that was a good set of hits right there, actually, from the Protoss player. Parasitic Bomb on the farmost Tempest, so that should be pushed back. Prismatic Alignment also activated very nicely. Probes once again being destroyed on the left side of the map, but I think I'll leave my screen on this. Oh my god, that was such a huge fungal on this fight over here. That fungal Parasitic Bomb, a WOMBO combo is absolutely ridiculous. You can spread out this army, right? Like, they naturally clump up together like this, but you can spread it out. So many of those units are running so incredibly low, but Neeb is keeping them alive. I would love to see a battery overcharge. Oh, it's already used. He's already used up a battery overcharge to, yeah, regenerate some shields, I think, prior, maybe in the same engagement. Mass Tempest, still up in the air. They can outrange everything here that the Zerg player has, but one more fungal Parasitic Bomb is going to be at the end of that. There are 7 Infestors, 2 Vipers still available. Vipers getting some new energy once again, so they want to go for another combo. This is a nail-biter now. 46 minutes into the game, and this match is not decided yet. Both players completely broke. They do not have additional resources here to produce a new army with. Careful, don't clump up your units! Oh my god, he just clumped up his units again! There's the huge fungal growth. There's another Parasitic Bomb. Serral doesn't have a lot of anti-air, but it's enough! Dude, I feel like if Neeb would have spread out his army just a little bit more there at the end to not invite that WOMBO combo once again, he probably would have put the nail in the coffin. But in the end, Serral squeezes out a victory just by the skin of his teeth. Hey, if you made it all the way until the end of this video, please do me a favor, hit the like button. It really does help. Thank you very much.